I am 29 years old, and 3 days ago, I effectively canceled my younger sister's $65,000 wedding. I didn't just refuse to attend. I didn't just cause a scene. I systematically dismantled the entire event, vendor by vendor, until there was nothing left but a rented hall and a whole lot of furious text messages. My phone has been blowing up non-stop. Half my extended family is calling me a monster, and my dad is threatening to sue me. But as I sit here looking at my credit report, I know I did the only thing I could have done. To understand how my family got to this point of absolute nuclear fallout, you have to understand the dynamic between my dad, my sister Chloe, 25F, and me. Growing up, Chloe was the golden child. She was the outgoing, charismatic pageant kid who needed all the attention in the room. I was the exact opposite. I've always been deeply introverted. Even now, in my career as a freelance video editor and graphic designer, my entire brand is built around the fact that I do not want to show my face. I like being behind the scenes. I like the quiet. I don't post selfies. I don't do video calls unless absolutely necessary, and I certainly don't broadcast my life. Chloe, on the other hand, is a wannabe lifestyle influencer. Her entire existence is documented online. Every latte, every outfit, every minor inconvenience is content. Our dad, 58M, has always enabled this. When our mom passed away 6 years ago, it hit us all hard, but Dad's reaction was to completely coddle Chloe. He treated her like a fragile glass doll, while I was expected to step up, be the responsible one, and take care of everything. Mom left us a small life insurance policy. I used my portion for a down payment on a modest townhouse and invested the rest. Chloe blew hers in 2 years on a luxury apartment lease, designer clothes, and building her brand. The crux of this disaster starts with a credit card. 7 years ago, when Mom first got sick, I was 22 and just starting to make decent money from my freelance business. Dad was overwhelmed with her hospital bills, pharmacy runs, and keeping the household afloat. I opened a high-limit Chase Sapphire card specifically for medical emergencies and household groceries. Because I was working crazy hours, I added Dad as an authorized user so he could easily pay for Mom's prescriptions or whatever the house needed without having to ask me for cash transfers every single day. After Mom died, the card was paid off. I kept the account open because it was my oldest line of credit, which is great for your credit score. I took Dad's physical card, locked it in my filing cabinet, and honestly, completely forgot he was still technically listed as an authorized user on the account. I just never thought to call the bank and formally remove his name. That was the biggest mistake of my life. Fast forward to a year ago, Chloe got engaged to a guy named Mark. Mark is a nice enough guy, a gym manager, but they certainly don't have fairy tale wedding money. However, Chloe was determined to have the wedding of the century. She wanted the custom designer dress, the sprawling estate venue, a 10-piece live band, and a celebrity tier photographer. Every time I went over for Sunday dinner, she was waving new glossy brochures in my face, talking about how her wedding was going to go viral and skyrocket her follower count. Dad would just sit there beaming, telling her she deserved the world. I assumed Mark's parents were paying or that Dad had taken out a second mortgage. It wasn't my business, so I didn't ask. I just kept my head down, paid my bills, and worked. A month ago, I decided it was time to upgrade my business equipment and renovate my home office. I applied for a small business loan. I have excellent credit, a solid income, and almost zero debt outside of my mortgage. I expected instant approval. Instead, I got a denial letter stating my credit utilization was dangerously high. I was completely confused. I immediately pulled my credit report. My heart completely dropped into my stomach. My Chase Sapphire card, the one with a $55,000 limit that I hadn't used in over a year, had a balance of $52,480. I started shaking. I logged into my Chase account online. I had to reset the password because it had been so long since I actually looked at that specific dashboard. When the screen finally loaded, I scrolled through the recent transactions. There were dozens of charges. $15,000 to Oakwood Estate Event Venue, $8,500 to Lux Floral Designs, $6,000 to Epicurean Catering Co., $5,000 to a boutique bridal shop, $4,000 to a videography team. Every single charge was for Chloe's wedding. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My dad had somehow ordered a replacement card for his authorized user account, intercepted it in the mail, and had been using my credit line to fund my sister's influencer vanity project. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to Dad's house. I didn't even knock. I just walked through the front door and found him sitting in his recliner watching golf. I threw printouts of the credit card statements onto his lap. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "What did you do?" He looked down at the papers, and his face went pale, but he didn't look surprised. He looked like a man who knew he was caught but hoped he'd have more time. "Now, just calm down," he said, holding his hands up. "I know how it looks, but it's under control." "Under control!" I screamed. "You stole $52,000 from me. You maxed out my credit card for a party." I didn't steal it, he argued, getting defensive. I am an authorized user on that account. You told me I could use it for emergencies years ago. For Mom's cancer medication, I yelled back. Not for a chocolate fountain and imported orchids for Chloe. How did you even get a card? He admitted that he had called the bank, claimed his card was damaged, and requested a new one be sent to his address. Because he was an authorized user, they processed the request. He told me he was planning to pay it off the week after the wedding. How? I demanded. You work at a hardware store, Dad. You don't have 50 grand sitting around. The wedding gifts, he said, completely deadpan. Chloe and Mark are expecting a lot of cash gifts. Plus, Mark's parents are giving them a substantial check as a wedding present. Chloe promised they would give me the money to pay off the card. I stared at him, absolutely horrified at the delusion. He was banking my financial future, my credit score, and my business on the hope that a bunch of 20-somethings would put enough cash in a cardboard box to cover a luxury wedding. Before I could say another word, the front door opened and Chloe walked in, carrying a massive garment bag. She took one look at my face and the papers on Dad's lap, and she rolled her eyes. Oh, great, you found out, she sighed, dropping her bags on the sofa. Dad, I told you we should have just told her. She always makes a huge deal out of nothing. I whipped around to face her. You knew? You knew he was using my credit card to pay for your wedding? Chloe crossed her arms, entirely unapologetic. Yeah, I knew, but honestly, you're overreacting. We're paying you back. It's essentially just a short-term loan. You're loaded anyway. You sit in your dark little office all day editing videos. You don't go out, you don't date, you don't even want to show your face to the world. It's not like you need the money for a wedding of your own anytime soon. I was speechless. The absolute audacity, the entitlement dripping from her voice. She had knowingly let our father commit financial fraud against me because she felt she deserved a viral aesthetic more than I deserved. The money I had worked 7 years to earn. You think because I value my privacy and work hard, that means my money is just yours for the taking? I asked, my voice dropping to a terrifyingly calm whisper. I think you're being selfish, Chloe snapped back. This is the most important day of my life. Mom would have wanted me to have a beautiful wedding. She would be ashamed of you trying to ruin this for me over a stupid piece of plastic. That was the breaking point, using our dead mother to justify stealing from me. Okay, I said quietly. I looked at Dad, then at Chloe. You have exactly 24 hours to secure a loan and transfer the entire balance of $52,480 into my account. If that money is not there by noon tomorrow, I am taking action. Or what? Chloe scoffed. You're going to call the cops on your own father? You wouldn't dare. I turned around and walked out of the house. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at my kitchen island drinking coffee, staring at the numbers on my laptop. I knew they wouldn't get the money. They didn't have the credit or the collateral to get a personal loan that size in 24 hours. The next day at 12:01 p.m., I checked my bank account. Nothing, not a single cent. I picked up my phone and dialed the number on the back of my Chase card. I asked for the fraud department. I explained the situation exactly as it happened. An authorized user from years ago had ordered a replacement card without my knowledge and used it for non-authorized, massive expenses, and the vendors were currently holding funds for an event that had not yet occurred. The fraud agent was very helpful but explained that because he was an authorized user, it fell into a gray area of civil dispute rather than straightforward identity theft. However, they froze the account immediately and opened an investigation. But I wasn't done. Freezing the account didn't get my money back. Since the charges were placed on my credit line in my name, I was technically the one funding these contracts. I looked at the itemized statement. I started at the top. I called Oakwood Estate Event Venue. I asked to speak to the events coordinator. Hi, I said. My name is Peter. My credit card was used to pay the $15,000 balance for the Chloe's wedding this weekend. That card was used fraudulently. I am the legal owner of the funds, and I am formally canceling the event and requesting a refund of the non-refundable deposit minus your processing fees, or I will initiate a chargeback for fraud. The coordinator panicked. She put me on hold for 10 minutes. When she came back, she said the contract was technically signed by my dad, but the payment method had to match the contract holder. Since it didn't, and that was disputing the charge, their legal department advised them to void the contract and refund the card to avoid a massive chargeback dispute. The venue was canceled. Next, I called Lux Floral Designs. I gave them the same speech. The florist was actually incredibly understanding. She hadn't ordered the final bulk of the fresh flowers yet, so she processed a refund right then and there. I went down the list: the caterer, the videographer, the boutique. Because the wedding was only 3 days away, some of them tried to fight me on the cancellation policies, but the moment I mentioned unauthorized credit card use and impending fraud investigations, they folded. Small businesses cannot afford $30,000 chargeback battles with major banks. They canceled the services and issued the refunds. By 4:00 p.m., I had successfully secured refunds for nearly $45,000 of the stolen money. The remaining $7,000 was lost to non-refundable deposits that had already been spent on customized items, but it was better than losing 52 grand. At 4:30 p.m., my phone started vibrating so hard it nearly walked off my desk. It was Dad. I let it go to voicemail. Then Chloe called. Then Mark. Then Dad again. I finally answered Dad's fourth call. "WHA'd you do?" He was screaming so loud the audio peaked on my phone speaker. "The venue just called me. They canceled the contract. The caterer backed out. Chloe is on the floor hyperventilating." "I told you," I said calmly. "You had until noon to pay me back. You didn't, so I took my money back the only way I could." "You ruined your sister's life," he bellowed. "Over money, you malicious, spiteful little brat. How could you do this to your own family?" "You stole from me, Dad," I replied, my voice hard and steady. "You committed fraud. You jeopardized my business and my home because Chloe wanted to play princess on the internet. You did this. You ruined her wedding, not me. And by the way, you still owe me the $7,000 that couldn't be refunded. If I don't have it by next week, I'm filing a police report for the remaining balance." I hung up and blocked his number. I blocked Chloe's number. I blocked Mark's number. The fallout over the last 3 days has been apocalyptic. Chloe took to her social media, posting a tearful, hysterical video about how her jealous, toxic brother maliciously canceled her vendors out of spite just days before her wedding. She conveniently left out the part where her dream wedding was entirely funded by my stolen credit card. A few flying monkeys from our extended family texted me, calling me cruel and heartless. I responded to every single one of them with a screenshot of the credit card statement and a simple message. "Dad and Chloe stole $52,000 from me to pay for this. If you care so much, you can pay for it." Funny enough, they all went dead silent after that. From what I heard through a cousin, Chloe and Mark still got married yesterday. There was no sprawling estate. There were no imported flowers. They got married in Mark's parents' backyard, and his mom made potato salad. Chloe apparently cried the entire time, refused to pose for pictures, and the reception ended by 8:30 p.m. because they didn't hire entertainment. I feel a twinge of sadness that my family is shattered. I really do. I loved my dad, and despite her flaws, I loved my sister. But love does not equal being a financial martyr. They looked at my life, decided I was too quiet and boring to need my own hard-earned money, and helped themselves. I have since officially removed Dad from the card, locked my credit with all 3 bureaus, and consulted a lawyer about recovering the remaining $7,000. My business loan was eventually approved after I showed the bank the pending refunds and the fraud dispute. I am moving forward. I might be the villain in Chloe's little online narrative, but at least my credit score is intact, and I never have to pay for a wedding I didn't want.